think I have no idea if that intro worked. I think it might have even started by seeing us and then the intro kicked in and then it's back to us. This is a first attempt at going live. Welcome everybody to Roll for Discussion. I am Crafty Ginger. And yeah, so this is the first one. We're going to give it a try, see how this goes. It could go absolutely amazingly. It could go horrendously wrong. Either way, it's going live. It is what it is, and it's going to be now on YouTube. So if you enjoy this, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe, maybe share it with your friends. If not, thank you very much for Elisa stopping in. Maybe say hello. I am joined this evening with Jason, Pizza Man, Nathan, and Rumpel. So, Jason, if you want to say hello.
Hello, everyone.
And Nathan.
How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? How's your week's been?
And Rumpel.
Hello. Happy to be here.
Hi guys, thank you very much for joining us for this experimental live version of Roll for Discussion. Our main topic tonight is going to be homebrew, the goods and bads of homebrew, and we can go through rules, campaigns, one-shots, items, and so on and so forth. But before we get into that, we're going to do our first segment, which is This Week as a Geek. So, Jason, what have you been up to this week as a geek?
This week as a geek, well, over on my channel, I uploaded our the one-shot Tomb of the Pink Dragon, featuring our very own Crafty Ginger, or GG. I don't know which one to call you anymore.
Either's fine. Crafty Ginger, Crafty GG, Crafty, that ginger fella. Whatever one works for you.
That ginger fella.
Happy Future Gaming.
Well, no, the thing is though, in my group, we have two gingers now. We have two gingers, so I got to be specific.
All right. So, who else is in the one shot?
We also have my friend David Corder. He has a YouTube channel, but I think he's abandoned it. He's actually in the process of writing a book. My wife is actually she beta read it, and I'm not sure when he's releasing it, but apparently it's pretty good. So yeah, be on the lookout for that. I'll try to give y'all some information about it when it releases, but yeah, that's more of his this week as a geek than mine, but I'll just throw that out there.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much. And if anyone would like to check out Jason's channel, it is Jason Pizza Man, all one word. It's family-friendly content. He does Minecraft. He has just recently started doing D&D, and there's a few other games there as well. So if you fancy some family-friendly content, please go and check him out. And now, Nathan, how about yourself, buddy? What have you been up to this week as a geek?
All right. Well, except from your session we did Friday, I've just pretty much finished off I finished off Pokemon.
Oh, which one were you playing?
I have to grab the game out of the fucking Switch because I forget. My brain decides to fall apart. Violet. I finished off the main story. I'm about to go through the gyms again.
Okay. And how you found that?
It was fun, but I don't know if anyone else in here has played it yet, so I'm not going to spoil it for anyone.
Well,
I enjoyed the main ending of it, which was fun.
Oh, fantastic!
Anything.
I haven't.
Played it.
I'll say I haven't played it. I haven't played it at all. But we'll get into more about what Pokemon games I have gone into. But how long did it take you to end up getting through to the end?
I don't know. I only went on it here and there. So
more of a casual gamer then.
Maybe a couple of days. It was more of casual. It was for that one.
Fantastic.
And I pretty much went on Minecraft yesterday as well. And every now and again, I haven't really got much else done. I haven't streamed yet this week. I need to get back into that. Other than that.
So if you do a bit of streaming, where could people go to find you?
If I do a bit of streaming, you can find me on twitch.tv/Nathan Goes Live.
Fantastic. There you are, folks. If you want to see Nathan do a bit of Minecraft. Is there any other games that you go for in particular?
I need to get back into playing some Rage, but it'll be whatever I feel like playing. So what should be Minecraft might be just whatever I feel like playing that day.
All right, fantastic. Well, there you go, everyone. If you're interested in a bit of casual gaming, you can check out Nathan Go Live over on Twitch. And
I will say I am not family friendly.
okay.
I am not so family friendly. Swear words will be restricted. Swear words are welcome.
Well, there you go. If you're looking for a complete opposite of J Sam Pizza Man, look no further than Nathan. And what about yourself, Rumpel?
Not much to be fair. Everyone else got a lot more going on. I finished Marvel's Midnight Suns this week. That was way better than I thought it was going to be. Like Nathan, I won't spoil the ending, but the ending is good and sets up for a sequel, which should be good. I hope it's good because the first one was good. So that's that. Other than that, just prepping for the next one shot, which may well be on this channel at some stage in the near future. That's
true. If we have any new viewers here that aren't aware, Rumpel did host his very first one shot, where myself, Nathan, and a few other members of Roll for Discussion took part in. You can find the whole session on this channel. If you want to have a look through, it's in one of the playlists named One Shots. It is quite long though, so you might want to pace yourselves out going through it. You're looking at about 4 hours. So if it is something you want to go check out, please do. He was exceptionally good, as considering was his first time being a DM. And yep, when he's up for doing the next one, we'll very much be looking forward to hosting it on this channel. Thank you very much, Rumpel. So, myself.
Thank you.
If anyone has been following the channel, they'll know that I have been streaming Pokemon Fire Red as a Nuzlocke channel. Nuzlocke challenge, rather. I'm doing it every other week for about 4 to 5 days. So, after today, for instance, I'll be taking it back up again from Monday. You can find it. It'll be playing for the UK viewers. It'll be from midnight onwards, so it's going to be a bit late. However, for the American viewers, you're looking at, 8 p.m., I believe that is. No, 7 p.m. 7 p.m. EST time for the American viewers. However, if you have... So, that's my bit as weak as the geek, and I think that has covered the section for us. So, guys, let's move on to what the main topic is for today. Homebrew. What are the good things or the bad things? What is it? What have you particularly enjoyed from homebrew? What are the pros and cons? That sort of thing. It's a bit of an open discussion, but we'll try to go a bit back and forth. And like I said, we'll just see how it all goes. So I'll start us off. Yeah. I do think that there can be some downsides to it. If you haven't thought it through too well, then obviously you have the risk that something could backfire, and maybe you end up making something that's a little bit too overpowered, or something that's a little bit too convoluted, like if it comes to stories and such. But as I say, overall, I've thoroughly enjoyed the whole concept of homebrew. Say in particular, let me start that again. One thing I will note is that I've pretty much only ever done homebrew when it comes to campaigns and one shots. I very much would like to do some pre-written stuff, take on some modules. I did buy one. I think it's Call of the Neverdeep, done by Critical Role. It's something that I will plan on doing at some point in the near future, but at the moment, while I'm still in the middle of running my own campaign, playing someone else's campaign, doing all these various one-shots and stuff, gotta wait until a few of those have died down. But say overall, I'm very positive when it comes to homebrew. Guys, it's an open conversation, so anyone wants to jump in, have at it.
I will say with homebrew, make sure whatever you're brewing is legal where you live. But as far as homebrew with D&D related stuff, okay, that joke fell flat. Never mind.
Dave, there's no editing going on today.
If we
mess up, it's all on there.
It's all live. It's all.
All right. Anyways, but yeah, most of my stuff I think is homebrew. Well, initially anyway. Recently, I've been playing The Wild Beyond the Witchlight. That is my it's a module. I've been playing that for the past couple of months with some friends of mine, and so yeah, there's like Crafty said, there's pros and cons. With homebrew stuff, you can kind of like make up your own rules and stuff as you want. But also, if you're using like a pre-made module, you have everything there set out for you, so it's a lot. I don't know if I would say it's less work, but it's a little bit more like, okay, what does the book say if they do that? Okay, so if they go here, this happens. Blah 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 blah. You have all your stat blocks usually right there in the book. Whereas homebrew, um, you're like looking up monster stat blocks if you're wanting to. But I guess it depends on like what like how it all depends on your play on your DM style. I guess. Do you want to like try to come up with your own stuff or just use pre-made stuff basically? I probably didn't add much, but that's my experience with homebrew because um, initially I don't even know if I knew when I first started learning D&D. I didn't know there was like actual adventures you could buy and stuff. I thought you had to like make up everything, and then I found out you could buy pre-made adventures. Like, oh, okay, that's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
So I was like reading through one of the books, and I'm like, okay, I see how this works now. So that's really good. And then, not to bring up any particular greedy companies or anything, but also you can buy third-party adventures as well, as I learned. So there's no shortage of adventures or one shots that you can do if you don't feel like coming up with your own material.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. If we do have anyone watching that has really limited experience with D&D, as is the case with several of us from this group, don't worry about like you have to make anything from homebrew. It's just a nice thing to be able to work with. There are plenty of pre-written stuff that you can just work straight off of. And again, when it comes to homebrew, you can make it as small or as large as you like. You just make a little tweak here and there to, like, say for instance, Jason mentioned stats. So when it comes to monster stats, if you know you've got a party that is particularly strong, but you wanted to have like one particular mon, looking at him and you think, oh, this thing's only got 30 hit points. It's going to be killed in like a turn or two. Well, you could just make a little alteration to hit points there. That's a really small scale bit of homebrew just right there. But yeah, okay. Nathan, what are your thoughts in general when it comes to homebrew?
Good.
Sorry?
Well, when it comes to people who are more experienced with like story creation, then yeah, go for whatever you feel like in creating the world. But if you're not, so let's say someone like me who's trying to get into it and wants to, but kind of scared, I'd say probably grab stuff offline. But maybe if you feel like it's not what you are on a piece of paper, maybe make a few edits to make it feel like you're putting yourself into it and add some bits into it that you feel like, oh, I could do this instead of this or whatever else.
Mm.
You could also add like separate rules or add another thing into it, or just make slight changes that it's not. So it's like same story, but you're not got like concrete. It's all the exact same of the thing, but you've made like a few tweaks here and there to keep yourself interested and everyone else feeling like if they've done it before, it feels like different.
Okay. Okay, right. That's a fair shout. What about yourself, Rumple?
Well, I was thinking that I'm a bit like you. I've only ever played homebrew stuff. And everything I'm doing for mine is 100% homebrew, coming up with everything. But I am looking at a module, and I think when you discuss kind of what's better, worse, whatever homebrew modules, I think they both, and like both of you two have touched upon this, they both work very well intertwined.
Hmm.
You could create your own world and setting, and then take a pre-written module and put it in your world. It's not like you have to use the world set out by the module.
Yeah.
And I think that's like a good mediated way to marry the two together. So you don't have to be, oh, I'm going to do 100% a homebrew campaign, or I'm going to do 100% a module campaign. You could mash the two together and see what comes out, which, yeah, I think is a fairly good way to bridge the gap.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, which I would just jump on what you said there. With the one shot that I ran on on this channel, the 1000th Christmas, that was basically a that was like one of the. I got inspiration from one of the quests in a module book that I had, and then tweaked it to be a Christmas thing. So like you said, you can basically like build off of it and kind of insert your own ideas into a pre-existing adventure there. So if you don't want to come up with something completely from scratch, maybe find something and then you just switch them.
You're okay there, buddy.
It's broken.
You know
It's
English?
broken.
Do you know how to talk?
Switch some things up a bit. There we go. I got through it. Good.
We got for it. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Yeah, like, I find one thing that I am looking at, because I'm actually looking at putting a module potentially into my world that I'm making for my campaign, and I found I'll say I was going to say not say because people in the group will be playing it, but it's the Ravenloft
Ooh.
has some modules in it. I use that book as inspiration for my one shot, and in doing so, I was like, "There's some cool stuff in here." So I think I may look to implement more stuff from the module throughout that into my own stuff.
Yeah, no, it's a good shout. I mean, it's definitely one way to help expand your homebrew. If you ever get into a point where you're trying to run a campaign and you find yourselves with these sort of gaps in between, like the main parts that you want to do, it can be quite easy just to take something that's already pre-written and just sort of stick it in there. You've only got to make just a couple of slight adjustments just so that it fits. I'll take an example. There was a part of the campaign that I was doing that has JSON in. I found some bits of pre-written one-shots that I was able to use and add those into, I believe, our last session that we did. I just had to make some slight tweaks as to the type of monsters that were taking place, and it worked out really nicely. Also, there's definitely a lot of benefits when it comes to the homebrew. But let's go into, for a moment, what probably could be considered like the biggest drawbacks or the negatives of using homebrew. And oh yeah, go ahead, Nathan, if you got one, bud.
Oh no, I was like, oh god. I don't know if I can come up with any of those.
Well, I think probably for me. Oh yeah, go on. You go first, Rumpel. I'll jump in after.
I was just going to say one thing that I've definitely found is it's much easier to get caught in a loop, or I suppose like getting writer's block as well. In essence, where you can get so fixated on one idea, you spend way too much time on one singular aspect instead of the larger thing. You can get in certain elements and lose focus of what you were trying to do to start with, which obviously in a module you're not going to have. Everything's written down, A, B, job done, where you've got to decide where A is, B is, and what happens in between. You may halfway to B end up going towards C, and then you're like, oh god, how do I get back? Like, where did I go wrong? What am I doing? And you can end up flustered sometimes.
Yes, that could definitely be a factor. I think one thing to always try to remember is to stay calm. Stay calm if you're in these moments. Don't let yourself get too bogged down by it. I mean, I guess it depends on the group that you've got with you. If they're if they're like quite serious D&D players and they're sort of expecting like you to be like top of the range sort of stuff, like maybe that sort of falls on the DM a little bit for not staying at the beginning. By the way, guys, I'm experimenting with some homebrew stuff, so just bear with if it goes a little bit pear shaped. But yeah, I get what you mean. Like, I think it comes down to a lot of it is like if you don't plan well enough, or I would say well enough, if you don't plan enough, like, but then that's I guess that could be subjective as like what is considered to be planning well enough. Like I've heard people say, oh, you should be you plan for several days for something like for your homebrew stuff, and then there are people out there that apparently say, well, there's no planning needed whatsoever, like you just wing it. I think that probably applies to those who can who maybe have a lot more experience and can improvise very well on the spot and probably pick up off like previous campaigns and stuff they've done. But if you were like a first time like DM or something, okay, I'll put an hour into planning, I'd say double that. If you're extremely inexperienced with doing it, unless if you've played like several campaigns as players, then hopefully you've picked up a few things there. You've taken some notes and whatnot. But I'd say as another negative, it sort of does fall upon with like not prepping enough is when it comes to homebrew items. So you might have a concept in mind and think, oh, you know what, this on paper this looks amazing. But if you don't fully understand the mechanics of D&D, or you haven't really fleshed out how your world works, or how like the characters, like the NPCs and all that sort of the locations work and that sort of thing, you might find that the item that you've made is actually severely overpowered, and the big bad that you were planning for them to your guys to go at, it's going to end up finishing them off in like a single turn. Is there any examples of you guys got where you can think of any homebrew items or anything homebrew crafted that you've seen in campaigns or one-shots, whether they're ones that you've personally experienced or they're ones that you've just seen or heard of online that you can think of and you think, yeah, you know what, that was a pretty poor attempt?
I can't think of anything that I'd say was like a poor attempt where it's either too far imbalanced, either one way or the other. But I do think when it comes to homebrewing items, like, and I know you found this a lot, is your homebrewing item that you think is like, oh, that's awesome, and then it'll go, yeah, someone's already made that. So you can actually end up homebrewing items that already exist.
Yeah, that has happened a couple of times. Although I've overall been pretty pleased by that. If I've homebrewed something and someone goes, by the way, this is actually something that's already in D&D, and it's just sort of like, oh, I know I'm on the right mindset. That's good.
Yeah.
Sometimes
and you know it's already been checked.
They're happy accidents. Happy accidents. You homebrewed it and it's a happy accident. You're just like, oh, I made something that exists already. Fuck.
or it could just show that you have the same mindset as Wizards of the Coast.
I don't know if that's a compliment.
Exactly.
Take that as you will.
Oh my god.
Oh, blimey.
I don't know if it's an overpowered item. I was watching with Viva La Dirt League's thing because the DM gave Bodger and they talked about it a hammer, which with every giant's toe increases with like gains like an ability or something. I don't think it's overpowered. I can't remember how many toes he's collected for it though. It's like 3.
So what was the item?
It's like I don't know if it's a homebrew item or already an existing item, but it's like think of it as a big warhammer, but it's force hammer.
Okay.
It's a hammer of returning, which is an actual thing, but the homebrew bit is which I do think is a homebrew. It's like a hammer of giant slaying, and for each giant's toe, it increases in strength. So I think it starts out as a +1, and then I think it goes up to a +2, and you increase the throwing range and things like that.
You can throw it and throw it back. I think it was stuff like that. I can't remember what it's up to now because I haven't been watching it, but I don't know if it's like overpowered or not. That's the only item I can think of at this moment of time.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. I mean, that's an interesting example. I wonder just how far that goes. I wonder if there'd be like a capped limit to how many pluses it would get. Do you think how many toes of a giant it would end up taking out? And it's just like, so how did you get on? It's like, well, I'm now plus 27. It's just like, oh damn.
I mean, how are you kidding? Many giants, and I don't. I think if he keeps adding giants, he's gonna have to make the giants even more harder to kill.
Okay, well, we've got a couple of possibly somewhat negative homebrew items. What about some positive ones then that you can think of? And again, these can be from your own experiences or ones that again you've seen online, and viewers as well. We could always talk about it. But I'll say for me, I think it was the first time I experienced a homebrew item was during my very first campaign, and it was with Jason. He was my first DM. Never forget your first DM. And we.
Oh, you beat me to that joke.
And we had no clerics in our party. We did have a ranger, I believe, who had a healing spell. But other than that, it was completely reliant on potions. So at no point were we ever, and I don't think anyone ever got to like level 5 by the time the campaign was finished. So I think even if we did have someone who could have learnt it, we never got Revivify. So we had no way of ever bringing anyone back. And Jason, and I believe this was a homebrew item, Jason, please correct me if I'm wrong, but you had this cactus that could be found, and it had 3 small flowers on it. And if you took one of those flowers off and you placed it upon the head of the character that had died, it would work like Revivify. Was that something that you had just come up on the spot?
I'm actually honored that you remembered that because that was such a small item.
I absolutely loved it. We clutched onto that thing like it was our firstborn child. Like we needed that when going into this big battle. It was just like, right, we have 3 of these flowers. We do not let one person carry them. Like somebody else take one. Somebody else take one. Like it was a key thing for us to make sure that we were still alive. And I thought it was a really cool idea. So I'm just curious. Is like, was it something that you just came up with on the spot, or did you have it already planned out, or what?
No, that was something I had planned out because I was like, oh, the wacky doctor, this is his friend, the potted cactus, and he's like going to send the cactus with them on their journey. Because I was like, because I think at this point we had already had like 2 or 3 character deaths, and I'm like, oh no. Oh no, yeah, it was 3 character deaths because I think 2 of them were yours.
Yep. Yeah, that was something I discovered early on. That even
you contain 2 out of the character deaths.
Well, I found even as the barbarian.
No. Here's the thing. Yeah, here's the thing though. Like his character died, and then in the next session he's like, "Oh, his half brother is here in town too." And then that same exact session, he died too.
Is his half brother? Oh my god! Is it fucking that one character from the? Never mind.
Yeah, he didn't last very long. But Jason very kindly allowed us to have a side quest where we could potentially get 2 characters back. One of them came back, I believe, after a bit of surgery. It was a human who ended up with a dragonborn's head surgically attached. It was quite a surreal sort of moment, but it was so much fun.
Did you get the breath ability?
Yes, he did. Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, we added that as an additional weapon, just so that he'd get over the trauma of having a scaly face.
No, Well, here's the thing, though. They got into the castle where the scientist was like, "I can replace his head. You can choose what head he has." And they were like, "There's like a chicken head, and there's like a maybe a squid head or something." And so I was like, I hope they pick something like super exotic.
Or they choose something very dumb.
Well, it was definitely
here's the thing,
exotic.
he wasn't there for that session, so he had no idea.
I would have gone with dumb looking and just be like
Yeah, we wanted
I
him to
want to
have.
make you look stupid.
We wanted him to have something. We wanted him to have something that was going to help him. I think the idea was to give him some range, like attacks. But yeah, it definitely worked. But that was for me. That's probably my most memorable homebrew item that I can remember that I thoroughly enjoyed. So we'll move on to Jason.
The only other like homebrew item that I can really think of, like, that mattered was in the same campaign. I had a like one of the quests was yourselves in order to get this weapon. It was basically a machete with a gear on it, and it was in a town run by gnomes, and the name of the sword was Gnome Mercy, which I thought was really cool. And honestly, I don't remember what it did. That's just like Crafty used the cactus. Was like, oh yeah, that was a much better homebrew item. So what am I gonna do? But yeah, there was no mercy, and but yeah, I think that's I mean, personally, I haven't really had much experience with homebrew items, so I'll pass it on to you guys.
Okay then.
I don't know what you're expecting from us. I don't know what you're expecting from me. All I've listened to are mostly like rules from which Rumpel has implemented. One of them, and that's used by people who do it, being action, get a whole potion, health, or bonus. You have to roll for it, but that's the only other thing I can think of. I don't have much experience with homebrew items myself. Being crafty, still being my only first DM and my first session still.
No, fair enough. I just thought maybe you might, again, kind of like what you were talking about with Viva La Dirt, maybe you'd seen something else online that you thought, that was a really cool homebrew item. But to sort of touch upon that one that you were just talking about, so this was that wasn't so much as an item as it was a homebrew rule that Rumpel was using in his previous one shot, where when it came to using potions, you could take correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but you took an action to use the potion like you normally would. So you roll whatever the dice was required for this potion, and that's what you got to heal up with. Or you could use a bonus action to then use to take the max amount.
No, so it was
the other way around.
It was used, an action would give full amount. A bonus action, you roll for it.
Right. Okay. There you go. Yeah, it was one way or the other.
You're
but...
rushing
Yeah.
to drink it instead of taking your time to drink it. But
yeah, exactly. So
you were close. You had it just hit, but you were close.
So was that something?
Only thing.
As I say, was that something that Rumpel you came up with again? Like as I asked, same thing I asked with Jason. Is that something you came up with sort of on the spot? Is that something you planned? Is that something you took inspiration or just straight up took from somewhere else?
I straight up took it from the Dirty channel because I just thought it was a good idea. I thought, and I tried to one shot quite difficult, so I wanted to balance it out a bit by going, they're not going to want to waste their action chugging a potion when odds are at various points they're definitely going to be wanting to chug those potions. So you don't want to make it too easy to say that just, we're going to not roll, drink it as a bonus action. You get your full. It's like you can choose to gamble or play safe, which I quite like. It leaves it up to the player to decide, but also gives like a full choice to go, you can just get max HP from this if you need it. And I just think it's a good rule, to be fair. Yeah,
I thought it was really good. It's something that I would consider definitely implementing at some point. I'm not sure if I would put it in my current campaign because it's been so long. I'm not sure if it's just like, straight up now just make this as a new standing rule. But maybe if I started a new campaign or I did a one shot or something, I'd just be like, yes, I really like that one. Yep, thank you. That's going in the new rule book.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what else. It's like with items I'm not really experienced with, but it's mostly like rules with like allowing creativity for like doing other means through other things, but you have to like make a roll to make sure you can do it. But other than that, it's just rules and that I've come by watching.
Anything specific jumps out to you?
I'm gonna say it was very early on within Viva La Dirt League of where he allowed, I think it was both Ben and I can't remember her name, allowed to use Mage Hand and then cast another spell through Mage Hand as long as they passed a roll.
Okay.
But because he like the creativity is like allow it if you roll high enough. There's a creativity aspect, but only if they rolled well enough to do so.
Okay, well, fair enough. Rumble, how about yourself then?
Yes. Well, look, a bit like Nathan, I haven't seen that many homebrew items, but I am planning on making a few. So I've been toying around with ideas for various bits and bobs, which I'm quite excited about. One thing I'm looking at is now I'm looking at I want to make some cursed weapons, and because people playing it, I don't want to give too much away. But there may be cursed weapons at some point that you guys won't know. You, as the player, might, but your characters won't. So keep that in mind. But no, I think there's a lot of fun that can be had with messing around with, where take an official magic item and stick a curse on it for fun, because that would be fun in my head. So yeah, I think there's, like I say, I haven't seen that many items, but I think the scope for them, if you've got an idea, if you can think it, you could probably make it work somewhere or another. And I think that's just a cool concept, because anything you want, make it happen.
All right.
As
Well,
long as you make it as bad as you possibly can.
so just sort of touching about making something homebrew, and I think again, given what we've all been saying like over the last like 20 minutes or so, it is there's probably a few tips already within there. But if we needed to like break it down just as a simple like little step-by-step process for someone's watching who's thinking about, oh, I'd like to make something homebrew. I've got some sort of an idea in my head, but I wouldn't really know how to go about it. What sort of advice would you think you guys could give to say, right, this is how I would see about doing it? Even if you've not made a homebrew item, how do you think the process would be of making one?
I'm going to start off with, let's say, if you're trying to make a homebrew weapon, at least try to make it as balanced as you can.
Okay,
If you're
but
struggling
if you...
take your...
But you say about making it balanced. How would you know if it was going to be balanced? Like, so what would you be looking at to see what counts of it being balanced?
I'm guessing how much damage wise or what it does.
Yeah.
At whatever you are. So you might go, oh, this weapon might be good for. They can have it early on, and you're like, okay, they can have it early on. It doesn't do that much. It's not that overpowered. It's slow build up, or it's quite a strong weapon. You might want them to get at a later date.
Okay, so you'd be looking at the stats to start with then.
Yeah, if you're also struggling, just take your time with it.
Yeah, so you'd have a. So I'm gonna try to see if I can break this down a bit. So you've got the idea. I want a weapon. What are we going with? A sword, a hammer, crossbow, whatever, right? And then, so the first thing you probably want to look at is what the stats are going to be. So what sort of dice are you going to be using to roll for the damage?
I think before that, and this is just from me, just because this is the way I've been making things.
Yeah, go on.
Is before I ever get to any stats, anything like that, I would go. So say it's a sword.
Mm-hmm.
Who wielded the sword? Like, what's the story behind the sword? Because that's going to give you kind of straight away going to tell you what kind of damage it does. Like, was it wielded by a fire giant? Cool, so it will do fire damage. So now we know it's going to do fire damage and slashing damage, that kind of thing.
Is it a legendary sword?
If it's wielded by a fire giant, will it be a great sword?
Mm-hmm.
Actually having the story behind it and then what was the person wielding it? What were they doing with it? Were they slaying hordes of demons or whatever? Maybe it does +1 to demons. If you have the story behind it, that's going to influence the stats you give it.
Yeah, so, and Nathan just mentioned there was it legendary, so was only one made? Were there several? So then maybe that might change its sort of rarity. Yeah, and then you start off with its background. Like I guess you sort of a little bit like if you're building a character, really, to help you more towards like what is your character going to be. Maybe look a little bit more towards what sort of a background, where did they come from. Looking at our stats, this is where then we're going to want to see is like how balanced it is. So I guess my advice would be then is go and compare. So once you've got written down what you think are going to be its stats, then maybe have a look online. Look at maybe like the original, like some of the core weapons that come out in D&D. Then have a look and see what other homebrew stuff is going on, and then just see where it sort of falls into place with the others, and that might give you a bit of a better idea of how powerful or underpowered it might be. And I think that will work pretty well. Anything else to throw in for that?
I think like you might want to keep in mind, what from your DM's perspective, from the DM perspective, pretty much what they're going to be going up against, so you can try to make it balanced for that specific thing. Going back to the cactus thing, I knew you guys were about to go up against a dragon turtle, so I was like, yeah, they're gonna die. I don't want them to immediately die, game over. So I gave them some the cactus, the revivification cactus or whatever, because I knew what they were going up against. So if you have them going up against like a dragon or something, or if you know that they're going to be going up against like a bunch of ogres or something, try to balance it for that encounter that is coming. And then, if you want them to keep the weapon, I mean, I guess it's up to you whether you want them to keep the weapon, or you can find a way to be like, oh, the weapon breaks or something. So keep in mind, like we said, looking at the background of the weapon, you kind of want to look ahead to the future of it too. Like, what are your characters, your players coming up against, and then balance it for.
It's a really good one. So even if it was particularly strong, maybe it's going to be particularly strong for a particular type of monster that you're going across. Maybe it has special traits that will make it useful for that. Then maybe it's a little bit more bog standard towards your other things. So it will just be a sort of standard greatsword when it comes to fighting skeletons. But if you were to fight a Leviathan, it's suddenly a lot more, it has a lot more abilities to it. And then maybe it also has a particular lifespan. So if it had certain abilities, maybe you could only use those abilities a finite amount of times before the sword either becomes mundane and basic, or maybe just breaks altogether. So that,
or just you can only use it once per day or something like that. Put limits on it.
If it's like certain abilities, you mean, or do you mean literally like if you would like hit with it? It's like I could hit once. It's like, oh, it's done now. Put it back.
Well, no, I mean, like if you have like a sword, it's like it does like plus 20 extra damage. You can only do that like once a day. So yeah, like abilities and stuff like that.
Okay. Well, I think that works pretty good as a rough sort of idea of how to look at when it comes to like creating a weapon. Let's expand it out a little bit then. I was going to say so much campaign, so let's go with one shot. So if you were looking at you wanted to do a one shot, but it wasn't going to be, it needed to be like 50% of it was going to be homebrew. Like, so the rest of it, you're going to grab your reference books, you're going to take some pre-written stuff, and you'll be like, right, I'm going to have a bit of that there, I'm going to have a bit of that there. But you wanted to add some homebrew elements to it. I guess the sort of structure to it is not too dissimilar from when it comes to, say, making a weapon. So you probably want to start with like your core concept, like where are you in the world? You know, what is this world? And I think that's where you want to begin with. And then again, a bit sort of like when it comes to, like, say, the weapon, maybe a bit of background, a bit of history to sort of flesh the world out a little bit more. Guys, if you want to throw in any ideas on this one, would you think there's a lot of similarities when it comes to, like, say, when it like you would with a weapon?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think it's very
Agreed.
similar. One thing I find that definitely helps me when designing all my one shots, that I say all of the two, is having a map. Like, I think people are different, but I think being able to visualize something really helps. So if you just got like a world map that you can look at and go, right, this is going to take place there. Right, now what's the area like? What's the people like there? What kind of lifestyle and all that? And that's then going to help lead in to the rest of the one shot into the story, because then you actually, if you already know what your villain is and what their goal is, all right, well, now they're in this location, how are they perpetrating that? How's it going on? How your hero's going to find out about it now? I think it all starts to come together as soon as you can visualize it.
Okay. Yeah, again, that's pretty good. Anyone else got anything to throw in?
I think for me, it's like, you want to find I think like for me, I really like picking like a bad guy that you have to defeat or whatever, and then kind of mold the story around that, because I really like the combat part of D&D, and like the different kinds of monsters and enemies you can fight. So I think my preferred approach is like find a villain that you want to take down, and then kind of build the world. Like, all right, what kind of world would this be in? How would the characters find themselves there? And like with my that was kind of my here I go self-promoting, but with my Tomb of the Pink Dragon one shot over on my channel, is like I found a cool monster that I was like, this is a really interesting concept, I like this, and then I tried to like build the story around that. So if you find one element, just find one element that you really enjoy, whether it be a monster or it could just be like, I really like this kind of location or whatever, and then build something from that. Build something. Don't just try to like make something as a whole. Focus on one aspect and then build around that, and like piece together different things that you really like.
That's a really good. I think that's a really good bit of advice on that one. Anybody else want to throw anything in?
The only thing I've got in the was, because it's going to come back to Rumple's map thing. Not everyone is obviously very creative with maps, so they go find maps already. But if you are very creative with drawing, I'd say try to make your own maps if you can, if you're good at that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or using like maybe a generator. If you find one, maybe one day you're like, I'm fed up of using copy and paste maps. I'm gonna find a generator and see if I can make a map through that.
All right. Yeah, there was.
Way.
I had seen on a YouTube short. Unfortunately, the name escapes me, but this guy showed on how you can make maps just using your own set of dice. Like, you need to have a few sets of dice. You know the one I'm talking about.
I've seen what you're on about. Where he rolls like different colors to indicate land, village, water, forest.
Yes.
Important landmarks and all that. He rolls dice, and then depending on the number of the dice, it's to say how big the village is or whatever else.
Yeah. No, I thought it was a very cool little concept. That's always helpful with Flow when it comes to like making maps, sort of thing. But okay. Well, I think we'll get to wrapping this segment up before we move on to the quiz. Has anyone got any last minute bits that they want to throw in? Any little bit of advice or anything really when it comes to the homebrew?
If you're making homebrew, take your time with it. Don't rush. Otherwise, if you get too frustrated, you will just make crappy homebrew item or crappy homebrew campaign or crappy one shot, and it won't go out, and you won't be happy with it. Take your time with it until you're happy.
That's a really solid bit of advice. I think that sums it up quite nicely at the end. Well, thank you very much, guys. So that has been our main topic, the homebrew. And so before we finish up with the stream, which, by the way, we've had, I've seen that the view count has been going up and down, so people are coming in. I have seen some notifications that the frames have been dropping. It might be my internet connection. I do apologise if anyone's having a bit of a struggle with watching this one. That will be a bit of a shame, our first live recording, and no one's been able to make heads or tails of what we're saying. I'll have to have a look back later on and just see how this all came out. Hopefully something that we can fix for a future date. But now we're going to move on to our last segment of the evening, which is Contesting Dragons. This is something that we've been doing for the last couple of sessions now, and it is an ongoing segment where our players are going to be competing against each other using the app buzzin.live. They are going to be hearing out a question that I'm going to be reading. First one to buzz in gets to answer the question. They must take their first answer. If it is correct, they get a point. If it is incorrect or they are unable to answer, they're excluded from that question, and the next person who buzzed in gets to answer, and so on and so forth until we've run through all the players. If no one is able to answer correctly or answer at all, no one will get that point. At the end of all the questions, the player with the most amount of points is crowned the master of the dungeon. Right. And I think I just realised something, and this is the problem when you do it live and you don't practice. I called it Contesting Dragons when it was Mastering the Dungeon.
Yeah, I was wondering.
We're contesting dragons now. We're all dragons in here. It's all bad.
Oh, the beauty of live recording.
I was hoping you were just going to roll with it. I was like, maybe.
I was there like, yeah, we're dragons now. Let's go.
Yeah, that's good. That's gonna haunt me. I'm gonna be sitting up. I'm gonna be sitting up at night, just be like, contesting fucking dragons, crafting. What the fuck?
Just be like, rah.
Right. I'm going to unlock the buzzers. Gentlemen, please refrain from buzzing in until the questions have been asked. You can, just for a point here, you can buzz in before the question is finished. However, I must take your first answer. So we have had this before. I think it might have been last session. I think it was everyone buzzed in before the question was finished being said, and everybody got the answer wrong because they had no idea what the actual question was. So, here we go. By the way, there are 9 questions with a possibility of 10 points.
Oh, yay.
Question number 1. Which power words spell is not an enchantment? Heal. Go for Rumple.
I didn't realise you were going to read them out. Is not an enchantment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to assume power word kill.
Kill?
Yeah.
That is incorrect.
No.
I'll continue. Jason?
Is it heal?
It is heal, correct.
I love how you hear the word heal, and you're just there like, I don't need any of us heal. Fuck that shit. I'm over here waiting for all the other options.
Question number 2. How many power words are 9th level? Go for Rumple.
2.
That is correct.
I have no idea.
You always just buzz in and just take a guess.
I know, but my brain going work.
Question number 3. Which first level spell directly increases your AC for longer than 1 round?
Yeah.
Nathan was first.
Shield.
That is incorrect. We move on to Rumple.
Mage armor.
That is incorrect. And finally, we go on to Jason.
Stone skin?
I'm afraid that is incorrect. The correct answer was chromatic orb.
Nah, I never would have got that.
Neither would I. I actually gave AC. I thought shielded.
Question number 4. Which class uses a D12 to determine its hit points? Go for Jason.
Barbarian?
That is correct.
Yes.
Question number 5. Name the 2 main draconic gods. Go for Rumple.
Tiamat and Bahamut.
That is correct. Those are 2 points there for Rumple.
As soon as I heard gods, they're like, I'm not even gonna bother. All the only one I know is King Tiamat. That's it.
Question number 6.
Those are like,
What is the name of the next version of D&D due to release? Go for Jason.
1 D&D.
That is correct.
Although I'm not happy about it.
Don't worry, buddy. Nobody is.
I'm confused. Why is that?
Question number 7. What phrase is typically used by the DM when combat is about to begin?
Oh, spamming.
Go for Jason.
Roll for initiative.
That is correct.
It's not always for combat. Sometimes it's just for time sensitive shit.
Question number 8. In D&D, what term is used for a huge underground location where most of the game events... Go for Rumple.
Dungeon.
Say that again?
Dungeon.
That is incorrect.
I went too soon.
I will read the question again. In D&D, what term is used for a huge underground location where most of the game events can take place? Go for Jason.
Chamber?
That is incorrect. Nathan?
I'm gonna go with a cavern.
That is incorrect. The correct answer was Mega Dungeon.
What?
So, yeah, there are... Obviously, you have underground locations, but what this is asking for, there is a specific term. Mega Dungeon is where basically the entire campaign will take place in a series of dungeons. The term is known as Mega Dungeon.
That's all right. I'm just hurt a little bit.
His feelings are his ego's burst.
And question number 9. What do the initials AC stand for? Go for Rumple.
Armor class.
That is correct. And gentlemen, we have a tie. Jason and Rumple both have 4 points. So
I'm in negatives because I suck at this game.
so we're gonna
I'm
have
never gonna get it right.
we're gonna have to come up with a quick question that is gonna have to be for between the two of them, and see which one answers first. And this is where I should have prepared a little better.
Why you never know.
Oh,
when
the
it's
irony.
going to happen.
Oh, the
First time
irony.
it's going to happen.
The irony in all of it. Okay.
It's the first time the draws happen, hasn't it? So I think you can't prepare for a draw if it hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
So
All right. This one is related to Dungeons and Dragons. Here we go. In the new podcast Roll for Discussion, which one of our players is from Estonia? Go for Jason.
Daron.
And we have ourselves a winner by a cheap shot. Jason has been crowned master of the dungeon or the contested dragon. I don't know, either one. Either one works.
he is the dragon master.
I'd like to I would like to thank Jason, Nathan, and Rumpel for taking part in the first attempt at a live version of Roll for Discussion. I really hope that all these notifications I keep getting about the frame rate drop hasn't affected everybody who's been viewing too much. If it has, I can only apologise and promise that we'll try to fix this for the next time. Until then, I have been Crafty Ginger. Guys?
I have been the contested dragon.
Oh my god. I've been Nathan.
And I've been the runner-up contested dragon.
I have been the swamp cleaner who's been sucking at the game.
Guys, ladies